Hi, and welcome.
I'm Z,
And I'm Keith.
and we're going to tell you about the movie that we just watched. But first, a little bit of a heads up.
Some of the movies we watch deal with heavy subject matters.
In order to talk about these emotionally delicate things and the heavy subject matters that we sometimes cover, we add humor and crude language to add some levity and to process our own trauma.
If that doesn't feel fun or safe for you, we completely understand. Please take care of yourself first and foremost.
And we spoil the end of pretty much every movie that we watch.
Now you know. On with the show. Hi, hello. I'm ready.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, I got this one of my free to review things a while ago, and it's like you can see inside your ear kind of thing. It's like an ear cleaner with a camera at the end.
Oh, whoa.
But you can't see shit. Like you can only get it. I couldn't get it in my ear very far at all. And so it was like, okay, I don't really know how that's supposed to work. But it has these little cleaners in it, like these little attachments that you can, I think some of them are like attachments, but some of them you can just use on your own, you know? So I just grabbed one and cleaned my ears out, and it was pretty gross.
Pretty what?
Gross. You can cut this all out of the beginning. No one cares. So,
I don't know if you've met this podcast.
so this episode is about a little.
I feel like you're being very quiet. I'm having
I'm
trouble
sorry.
hearing you
Okay.
from way over here.
Well, it's because there's 15 fans going off on your end.
I need to use your ear colonoscopy.
Yeah. Velvet Goldmine. Let's talk about Bevel Gobble.
Gobble gobble.
This movie was a huge impact on you.
On me?
Yeah. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, it turns out I didn't. My emotions watching it last night mirrored or echoed the rise in the Brian Slade's career in that I was elated, and then I felt bad.
Yeah.
I was making connections that I had never before.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I realized that film holds a bigger place for me than I realized.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it that many times, compared to other movies we've talked about even, but
yeah.
Boy, yeah, it had an impact. And the big connection I made for myself last night was like that I watched it when I watched it for the first time.
Yeah.
And what dots it connected for me. Really, it was just the timing of it was very crucial.
Yeah.
Looking back, I mean,
for sure.
and it wasn't the only thing, of course, that contributed to the sort of path I'm putting it on. But like, I'm pretty sure I watched. I don't remember watching it the first time. I can't place it in. But I remember being in Seattle and being and being very all the things I did immediately afterwards because of how it impacted me. You know, I was still in Seattle when that happened. And that's a pretty limited window. I didn't live in Seattle very long, but but before moving there, like in the late 90s, it already started. already been exposed to sort of queer politics, queer theory, gender theory.
Thankfully.
I'd read a little book called The Apartheid of Sex, which I should look up. I want to and reread. My memory is that it's pretty short.
Yeah.
But for me, that's the book that, and I actually haven't read any of the other big ones like Gender Outlaw, which is the Judith Butler one, I think. Or I read a little bit of Kate Bornstein's My Gender Workbook much later.
Yeah.
Judith Butler's hard to read. I mean, it's very academic writing. So
Right.
And you gotta, or at least I tried to read that at some point. I don't remember anything about it except that I was like, this is beyond my depth because she's referencing things I don't know about.
Yeah.
Or not enough that I can.
Right.
Anyway. Maybe it wasn't Gender Outlaw. Maybe that's not her. But anyway, whatever. Them.
Shim.
What was I saying? So, I read that book. I had read, I put this book in the same category, partly because of timing, but also because of, in the late 90s, it was like, this is my post-high school time, right?
Yeah.
So I graduated in 94 from high school. So everything that happened between that and, moving to Seattle in 2000.
Yeah. Merged together.
Yeah. And, a lot of things happened in those years. But yeah, that's the time when I was really exploring feminism. And a part of that, and as an extension of that, gender.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Some people don't progress that way.
Right.
Some people get stuck there.
Yeah.
But that's like at the same time we had seen I shot Andy Warhol, and my partner at the time got big into Valerie Solanas and got I remember she special ordered a copy of the Scum Manifesto.
A man is just a failed abortion. I hope Ted lets me shower soon. Val, don't. So
You're welcome.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
So much for that. Those jokes being so much richer now that we watched that movie. Anyway, so I had that sort of foundation, as shaky as it was, but those weren't new ideas. And I remember that Flota, who was one of my biggest, Flota and Ruth functioned for me like how an older sibling did for a lot of people in that they exposed me to a lot of music.
Yeah.
And we were fellow journey people, as far as
right.
had a lot of similar interests, and if nothing else, weren't confined to genre, you know what I mean? It was always ever expanding and looking for new things. And but from the time I met him and started hanging out, Florida had been into the Velvet Underground and got hugely into the Iggy and the Stooges. So I'd been exposed to that stuff and Bowie, you know. But this movie really connected the dots for me as far as the transgressiveness of performance and identity and queerness and gender.
Yeah.
So then I became it made me a huge fan of glam rock, and I myself then got very into certain Bowie records and albums and Eno. Florida had introduced me to Eno in the mid-90s too, so and that's to you, it'll be painfully obvious what a huge influence he is for me, on me, on me, on me. You know, like the spiders. Bitch, I have ants all over me. Anyway, yeah, I'm feeling self-conscious.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't really know growing up in the States,
Right.
glam rock had a negative connotation in that first things that came to mind were bands like Poison and Warrant and quote hair metal.
Yeah.
Which was just so obviously rife with misogyny. Contradictorily, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And, Kiss, I guess, which I was never into. Flota, again, big into Kiss.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Float is such a, like, it's just a wrench in the engine. Like, you're never going to guess with him. You're never going to guess.
I know. That's one of the things that...
Right, yeah. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense that you're friends. But no, yeah, Float, he's a very, yeah.
But I also remember that, like, maybe you were exposed to this too, especially early 90s after grunge, everybody having to comment on grunge and where it came from.
Right.
There was already a fair amount of exposure of, like, Stooges and shit like that, like proto-punk, and a lot of punk retrospectives were happening.
Yeah.
Like, I know there was, like, a several-part documentary on PBS or something, like...
Yeah.
So, like, I'd already seen the footage of Iggy smearing peanut butter on himself or whatever. Didn't know the music that well, but, I was familiar with the spectacle of it. So the fact that the movie happened, all that started coming together for me. I was already... Part of our move to the Northwest was, trying to, just forge a path for ourselves, right?
Right.
Away from our roots in Southern California. By roots, I mean family.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but like one of music was definitely high on the list of things I wanted to be involved with. Anyway, and then I moved to Olympia, and, of course and I already knew, one of the reasons we moved there, we went to school in Olympia.
Yeah.
But we already knew, of course, about Riot Girl and
Right, yeah.
all that stuff. Which, of course, folded nicely in with
for sure
these other things.
Yeah.
And then, it just became less theoretical and more practice.
Yeah.
Praxis. I remember for on New Year's. Yeah, so we went to New York for New Year's for the new millennium. Mm-hmm. It must have been 2001. I dressed up very sparkly and
nice.
Femme.
Yeah.
And we went out, and I don't think we did anything besides go to our restaurant, but I felt very...
Yeah.
I don't know if I showed you. For a long time, it was one of my favorite photos of myself. On that night, there's a picture of me with a dollar bill on a fork, like I'm going to eat it.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that. You'll have to show it. You'll have to show it.
I'll have to show it. Anyway. Yeah, so the fandom aspect of this movie definitely resonated when I was thinking about like my participation, if you will, in the scene in Olympia, where I was. I mean, everyone was. It wasn't like unique to be at a show every weekend because there were
for sure
so many shows all the time, and there were so many venues, and it was fine. It wasn't like. Sure, there were a few more prominent ones, but prominent just means they got booked regularly.
Yeah.
And if people were coming through town, they would go there.
And
then there was the Capitol Theater, which sat more people. Anyway, I don't know. I can go down so many different rabbit holes here. Yeah, and then I got to spiraling about, my time is over.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that there's this this thing that happens to me when I it's like a combination of
Pizza Hut
and Taco Bell. No, it's like it's not like FOMO. It's not like fear of missing out, but it's more like knowing I missed out on things.
Yeah, right.
And this, it's less about, I don't really think about things, it's like a thing of like, I think this is a thing that happens to all people as they age, which is the unfortunate thing of, I wish I could have the self-confidence or just the knowledge that I have now and experience being young again so that I didn't have to go through all that fucking pain of not knowing what to do and hating myself for it.
Right.
And then...
Well said.
And then you just... it's impossible because you would not become the person you are without that young person hating themselves and getting through that and past that. But there's also this like place that I was thinking about it last night because like during the movie specifically because I was like, I'm like, yeah, God, I do kind of miss feeling like I could just walk into a bar.
Oh, yeah.
And have a drink and sit down and it wasn't anything.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Was it ever... Never anything, though?
Well, yeah, there was like a brief time when it was like... I would get off of work.
Yeah.
And I would have Mondays and Tuesdays off when I was a barista. And so I was always working the night shift. So like on Sunday nights, my final shift, I would leave and I would go to the bar that was just a couple... stores down from the cafe that I worked. Right. Dead as shit on a Sunday night. No one was there. I'd get whatever. I'd try a beer out that I liked, and I'd just sit there and I'd look at my phone or I'd listen to the music. I would just sit there, and that was it. And I liked that because it was me like signifying that I was like done with work. It was like a whole ritual for me. I really liked it. Didn't last very long. Sometimes, yes, men would come and hit on me, and that was my least favorite thing. But it was like, it just doesn't feel like something that I can do anymore because it doesn't feel like something that would have a weightlessness to it because of everything that's going on in the world. And there's this part of me that's like, and I can't even drink anymore, like I can't drink, I can't do any of this stuff. So it's like, right, I can't, none of this is something that I can do, I don't have, whatever. But like, I was, like looking at like it's funny because it's like the point when he's like, when Christians Bale,
All of them.
Christian Bale's character.
All the Christians Bale.
When Christian Bale is like, has made the connection that Tommy Sparks or whatever is whatever. Yeah. And he, it's like after the show and he's sort of like the fans of whatever, Tommy Stone are like, oh my God, and he's like gotten past that. And they're like at the beginning of it. He's like on the other side of it and they're at the beginning of it.
Excuse me, sir? Are you with the Tommy Stone tour?
No. Just a journalist. Perhaps you'd like my press pass, a souvenir.
Thanks, sir.
And it's just kind of showing you like the generational thing of like all young people attached to someone this way and they don't know the actual story or the, what's actually going on for them. They just idolize this person, And I was like, it's funny because I'm more like, I'm not like, oh, I wish I could be those young people. I'm like, oh, I wish I could be him, just being able to like, be in a time when things were so vastly different than they are now.
Huh.
And then I'm like, right, but like all that, like, I wish I could go back. I wish that I could just be on the cusp of right before things turned so bad, And then I'm like, right, but like as bad as things are, it's like, it's this crazy thing because like a lot of the things that I feel so like resentful that I didn't get to experience was like sort of just life before things before capitalism got so bad,
Well,
and I'm not saying that it wasn't bad in the 80s or the 90s, but it wasn't like this because I lived in the 80s and the 90s. So I do know, and it was bad. It was bad, but it wasn't the way that it is right now. And that's a big part of like, I just wish I could go back and be like, I know how it's going to be. So I just want to enjoy life before everything is so, because it just feels like there's no escape from it anymore. It's like, it feels like there's no way to escape in the way that there used to be. Like I was thinking about it last night and I'm like, yeah, from like the 70s to the 90s, things were really similar.
by comparison to since the 90s
to now, yeah. Like, or even like the 90s to the 2010s, right. Like 20 to 20, just like like in the 1970s, the main mode of communication was like telephone. You could write letters, but you weren't like doing it. Wow, that's what it sounded like to me. But, and you would have like pop stars and you would watch their music videos sometimes and you would see, you would have like only certain ways that you could engage with this. And then in the 90s, it was the same way. Yes, MTV blew up, but it was like,
oh, yeah.
But it was still like you were watching them through TV. You were waiting for your favorite song to come on the radio. Yeah, right. Maybe you were able to buy a CD or a cassette, maybe, like. And, like if you had enough money, or you would steal it or something, whatever it took, okay. And then it's like, now it's just like, it's all so easily accessible that everyone's so bored with it. And it's like.
Well, except that that's what's confusing to me.
Yeah.
Is that there's still.
Yeah.
People who make it their whole life to.
Right.
Be a Swiftie or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like. There's no like standout person because if you're a billionaire, you can afford to put your face everywhere. So that's, you're going to be the person that everybody listens to. You're going to be the person that everybody, but like, there's no the same organic way of like someone hearing your music on the radio and like it being a special thing that your song was playing.
How organic is that?
Well, no, I get that, but I mean like,
I'm not trying to be pedantic here.
Yeah, I don't mean organic. I mean more like there are songs that I heard on the radio that I don't even know how to find them anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There are things that I heard when I was younger that I would like write them down so that I could remember them. And that's something that doesn't happen now.
There's a song I heard. I remember because it played I was listening to the UCR, UC Riverside College radio station. Mm-hmm. A song played. I called because I was so, and this meant a lot. This was
for
big
sure.
deal for me.
Yeah.
I called because I was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And it's still one of the most
Yeah.
impactful tracks.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah. Our exquisite, our exquisite, I'm not confident about the word exquisite, replica of Eternity by Gaster del Sol.
Okay, cool.
You know it because I put it on the...
Oh, I'm sure I do, yeah. But see, that's what I mean, though. Like that sort of like, that's what I mean by organic, is like you would hear
None
it.
of the rest of the album is like that track, by the way.
You would hear that's another thing that's like insane to me. That's a thing that used to happen. I don't know if it still happens as much, but like it used to be a thing where like you would hear a singular song and you'd be like, this is the most amazing song I've ever heard. Yeah. This band is the best band I've ever heard in my life. You buy the album, nothing sounded like that. You're like, what? And not like nothing else is exactly like that song. It literally, you feel like you're listening to a completely different band and you're like, what? Yeah. That was such a confusing phenomenon for me. I did not understand that. I still don't understand it. Anyway. Yeah. But yeah, there's this like...
That's how you get a hit single and nothing else. That's how you become a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. But it's like, it's one of those things where there's just... And I mean, I understand that like... music isn't made for me anymore, which I'm not like disappointed in or upset about. Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying it's literally not made for me or like I don't like anything anymore. That's not what I mean. It's just like the stuff that you're going to hear on the radio isn't targeted at me. Yeah, and that's
you're not
fine.
in a demographic that is marketed
that's totally
to
fine.
At.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't, because the stuff that was made in the 80s also wasn't targeted to me as a 2-year-old. But I listened to it and I'm like, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
I feel all right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I was like, I have to remember what I was saying.
Yeah.
When we paused.
I was
talking about like
how bad things are and how you can't have any fun anymore. And
no,
you wish you could go back and just enjoy the lightness of being.
Well, like this is where, this is the thought I had last night. I was like, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, where are all the black people?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's what the cost is, like to go back.
Yeah.
Like there would be so much lost that you don't realize.
Right.
And that's what's devastating about it. Is that you couldn't take anything with you. Like you couldn't actually go back and be the person you are because you wouldn't be allowed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that you kind of forget. Is
Absolutely.
that like you wouldn't have existed then because you couldn't have. Right. And like that's what's hard. But that's also what makes you feel like, oh, it's over because that was the only time that I could have existed. But like, no, you couldn't have existed the way that you do then.
Yeah,
and
that
like,
was a useful thing that my therapist said to me once was, I said something about regretting that I hadn't been more myself at a younger age. And he was like, well, no, it wasn't safe.
Yeah. Right.
It wasn't that you were.
Right.
if you were afraid to be that, it was probably for a reason.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And like that, I think that's something that's hard. I think that's part of what's hard, because you look back with not with rose-colored glasses, but you look back with the knowledge of overcoming the trauma that you were going through at the time that you don't think about.
Right.
Like if you went back and you were experiencing all that again, you would do the same exact thing, because you would be experiencing trauma, and you'd be, all of that shit that was going on that made you have the response that you did, you would probably be triggered to do the same thing again. And that's the tragedy of it, is that you can't, but the thing I'm trying to get to is like, one of the things about me that I've been having to deal with being, disabled and saying those words. Differently abled. Saying those words and coming to terms with that is like, a lot of the issues that I have with my body, it comes from ableism. It comes from internalized ableism, internalized fat phobia, internalized all of these things, internalized transphobia, all of these things about my body.
Islamophobia.
Exactly. And the truth of it is, one of the things that I've talked about this with past pride queer sort of like things that we've talked about. One of the reasons why I'm so attracted to people who are older is that I want to get there too. Right. I want to be older and have people still care about me. That's like a thing that I'm like, and I'm like, I can't do that if I don't let myself get there. If I say like it's over, I've moved past my ability, I'm never going to be that thing. I'm never going to be that for somebody. And so it's like, I can't say like, well, I'm disabled, so I'm never going to be that. No, I'm disabled and I can be that too. I'm disabled and I can still be attractive. I'm disabled and I can still move my body. Just, I have to move in ways that work for me. Right. And that's something that's like, I'm trying to hold on to, is like, I can't be, if I go back, if I was able to go back, I wouldn't go forward. And that's the whole point, is like, I want to be able, like, and that's sort of, I feel like that's sort of what the movie is sort of saying, is like, you always like view this as, this glamorous thing, but, and you look to yourself as like, if I could be that, then it wouldn't hurt. Cause he's like, he like the whole point is that like oh my God, I don't know who I'm trying to talk about.
His name's Arthur, if that helps.
Okay. Arthur is like, his whole thing is like, he's hiding his queerness. He's hiding his, all this shit from his parents, because he can't be safe. So he's idolizing and idealizing these rock stars who are going through absolute shit and who are absolutely devastated and in pain and losing everything and not in the limelight and fucking up and hurting people and all this shit. But all he sees is they're able to be their true selves.
Can I use that to segue into a reading?
I just want to make sure that I wasn't. So it's like, you see it, but like they're looking back and they're probably thinking, I wish I could be that young person that had all that ahead of them and could make that you don't see the pain that someone's going through. You don't see the issue.
Well, right. And by design.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like, there's no, I just want to say this in case I forget. Yeah. But I think, it's one of the most devastating scenes in the movie to me is when Toni Collette's character is going to see Slade, whatever.
Yeah.
and give him the divorce papers.
Oh, yeah.
And like she's designed to be a fucking annoying person.
Yeah.
Her whole thing, because she's doing a fake English accent. I love that.
Oh my
I love
God,
that
she
thing when
does so
slips.
well at doing an American.
Yeah,
doing it British.
A bad British
yeah.
accent. Exactly. Beautiful.
How's she do it?
Exactly. And it's the part where they're like, you need to leave. And she walks to the wrong door and they all just start laughing at her and just making fun of her. And she's just like screaming at them.
Brian, I am really
It's
sorry.
all right, Shannon. Mandy was just leaving.
Mandy, if you'd be so kind as to follow me. Let go of me! I am perfectly capable of making my own. I really don't want to have to call someone.
Call someone.
I am his wife, for fuck's sake! Fuck the lot of you!
It was so devastating, but I'm like, yeah, this is such a good point of like, there's really no difference between her and the rest of them. But it doesn't feel like it in that moment.
Correct.
And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Is that like, it's all a fucking illusion. It's all a fucking illusion.
Right.
And like, the devastation is in being told that you're making it up, but so is everyone else.
Right.
And you get told like you're not allowed to make it up anymore. You're not allowed to be in the illusion anymore.
You're not included in this.
You're in your own you're in a delusion. We're in our created, illusion. Yeah.
So this is about as far as I got in this essay, which was referenced in a short YouTube that I watched about this movie.
Nice.
So,
did you watch the YouTube before we watched it last night, or did you start? Like,
I watched it today.
Okay.
It was a short.
I was just curious if it was something that you had seen before and were
gotcha.
Like, yeah. Just want to give a punch.
So I just wanted to read. So I can't speak to the whole essay, and
Right.
like I said, this is basically as far as I got. But it speaks to a specific scene and the way it talks about. And he referenced the author of this essay talks about Walter Benjamin. So of course I'm like, oh, it must be good.
Who's Walter Benjamin?
Walter Benjamin was part of the Frankfurt School of German philosophers, and he's included in that camp that also includes Theodor Adorno and Horkheimer and Herbert Marcuse.
All people that I'm really familiar with.
Well,
It's okay.
Benjamin's most famous piece is the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction, oft cited, which was the basis of a little BBC series called Ways of Seeing by John Berger, which then is also a little book of its own. Adorno did all kinds of shit. Benjamin killed himself.
Cool. I've never heard of any of this stuff, by the way. So I feel very cultured.
I've certainly referenced.
You've probably referenced
them.
stuff, but I have no.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I'm no scholar on these guys. They're just people that my teachers referenced.
Gotcha.
And, so I've read snippets here and there. I've tried to read the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction. I can't tell you how many times. I don't think I've ever finished it.
Yeah.
But Benjamin did seem to, I don't know. I like him in theory. It's one of those.
Gotcha. Yeah,
He
yeah.
seems to. And those guys came up with the idea of a culture industry and whatever.
Yeah.
Anywho. So this essay is called I think it's called The Treasures of Earth and Stream Todd Haynes film Velvet Goldmine. 2002 by Malcolm Bullock. It appears to have appeared in a journal called Discourse. It's behind a paywall. Mm-hmm. JSTOR lets you have a few free things, so that's how I...
Same.
No, I lost my place, sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, also, I didn't catch this, but according to this essay, when he's in the record shop and he's asking to borrow money, that's supposed to be his brother.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's the only scene he's in, so I didn't catch it. But there were also lots of things in this movie that...
There's just,
It's very dense.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yes.
Okay. In one such flashback, we see Arthur at home in Manchester with his staid parents watching the televised image of Slade answering questions from the press about his newly affected, heavily made-up bisexual look. Suddenly, the pop star begins to mystify and bewitch his interlocutors by fearless declarations about his sexual pose. Arthur, quote, shrieking at the top of his lungs like a lunatic, end quote, as the screenplay instructs, points to the TV screen and shouts, "That is me, that is me, that is me." This provides a crucial point of intersection between the full absorption of the camera in a reimagined visual phantasmagoria of star glamour and the contrasting situation of the fan into whose existence that spectacle penetrates. Up to that moment, Arthur's life has had him trapped in the almost inescapable well of his circumstances. The sudden recognition would have created a psychologically real effect if what we saw here showed the relief of a person who lives as a foreigner in his own home, now discovering a factual kinship between him and Brian on the basis of sexual orientation. But we miss the full force of the moment if we limit its meaning to something that can, quote, correctly... But we miss the full force of the moment if we limit its meaning to something that can be, quote, correctly explained. The scene raises Arthur's response to that extreme level in order to lift it beyond the explicable. If his outburst had taken the form of, quote, "I'm like that too," end quote, then it would have registered in explicable terms, since it would, indeed, have been a statement of fact, whether true or false. His shriek resounds in another language, however, enabling him to speak for the enigma of fandom more generally. He has formed an identity with an image from the outer edge of reality and made a connection whose real power frees him from the surroundings that have held him trapped. Until that moment, he has lived with a sexual identity so alien to the lower middle class provincialism. I know that's not how that should be said. Of his surroundings, so buried under the settled appearance of his parents and even his brother's normalcy that the landscape against which everything had been determined has permitted no visual language in which to form an image of himself.
Yeah.
And then I'll read. I just want to read a little bit more because I didn't know this part, or I didn't think about this part. Mm-hmm. Either. In his foreword to Barney Hoskins' book on the glamour rock period, Glam, Bowie, Bolin, and the Glitter Rock Revolution, Haynes emphasizes that the repressive influence of these surroundings should not be reduced to the familiar theme of parents and their children. He writes that glam rock was, quote, clearly aimed at the intense morality of the 60s youth culture, parentheses, and the homophobia and misogyny it concealed.
Yeah.
In parentheses, and no longer at the older generation. The scene in which the older brother who admires The Yardbirds and Derek and the Dominoes describes Arthur's interest in the new musical star as, quote, disgusting, illustrates the point.
Can you lend us a couple of quid? I got money.
You must be mental.
Oh, please, I swear I got it.
Piss off.
Thanks.
What's it for?
Nothing.
Is it here then? Let's have a look.
Bloody Nora.
Oh, kid's one of them pansy rockers. You know, it's fucking puff that one there.
It's not.
That's naff. That's naff.
You're disgusting.
You know that?
Whether or not it fits an accurate description of the times, the moralizing judgment underlines the shift in popular styles and values the film is supposed to recreate. The idea of homophobia in youth culture of the 60s has to be understood as it figures in Haynes' construction of the 70s, not as historical fact.
What's that mean?
Which part?
Not the last line.
The idea of homophobia in youth culture of the 60s has to be understood as it figures in Haynes' construction of the 70s, not as historical fact.
Right. So that it means it wasn't real?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Gotcha.
But it does not mean that it wasn't his lived experience.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I'm adding that the text didn't. I'm not sure that they were meaning to imply that, but
Right. That's what you.
I will.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Certainly. I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah.
I don't know what to put this. I don't know
I don't know where to put it. It's okay, baby.
I'm doing so much more talking this episode than I
I
normally
know.
do. So
You're gonna have a panic attack when we.
That's a
stop
funny
recording.
joke. That's not at all an
It's
exaggeration.
not. No, but yeah, this is a very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I was watching it last night and I was like, I was kind of marveling at how I'm like, yeah, this is really only making space for queer relationships and how queer relationships are viewed and stigmatized and othered, but also like how queer identities are othered, how queerness is othered, but how it was so the only really love stories you're seeing in the movie are queer. Mm-hmm. Like even talking about Arthur and no, not Arthur. Toni Collette and Jonathan Rhys Meyers, not Davies, like we said.
Yes, correction. It's not Gimli. Slash
Da Vinci.
Yeah. Janeway's Da Vinci. The book by Umberto Eco. It's a good joke, I promise. Don't worry about it. Solid joke.
So
hey, how about the fact that Padma Lakshmi was married to Salman Rushdie for 2 years? How about that?
what years? What 2 years?
2005 to 7?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, it sort of shows how those two. It shows how those two characters got together, but the way that it's viewed.
I already forgot who we were talking about.
Toni Collette and Jonathan Rhys Davies.
Myers.
Yep.
Brian and Mandy, I think.
Oh my God. I just got a text that was like, please confirm that you're voting for Joseph Robinette Biden. It literally says that. What?
Do it.
No.
Confirm.
Oh my God.
What do I get?
Ow, fuck. Anyway. Toni Collette and Jonathan Rhys Myers. Myers? Oh my God. Fucking shit. Now I don't know which is which. So how they get together, it's like, it shows like when they like meet and like start hooking up and stuff like that. But I feel like it's still has less weight than the rest of any of the. I don't feel like it's presented as a love story, but just like, this is what happened. This is how we got married.
Oh, I think I disagree.
That's fine. I'm just saying that's not how it felt.
Compared to the rest of the movie, yes, it takes up. It feels less weighted, but it's also definitely in the context of like a queer space.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah. And they're both queer. It's stated that they're both queer. And there's like a scene during the orgy when like she has two guys on her and a girl comes up and she's like, oh, thank God.
Totally.
And like, but like, even so, that's sort of what I mean is like their like love story isn't like we're two people that are like we're made for each other and like there's no one else. Like they like hook up and then they get married, but then they're just like sleeping around with other people. And what gives the like when Slade and Kurt
Wilde.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even think until this watch that like maybe that's intended to be somewhat a reference to Kurt Weill, who was a composer that worked with Bertolt Brecht. For instance, he wrote the music for Mac the Knife. A little tune you may have heard of.
Yeah, it might be.
There's a band now called Kurt Weill, but spelled like the adjective vile.
Mm-hmm. So
not the German surname.
So what gives so much weight to them being together is that they aren't sleeping with other people, like Slade and Wilde. Like they're at this orgy. They're at this orgy and they leave just to be, and that's it. Like, and that's what the devastation is. So it's like,
well, for what's her name?
Toni Collette. Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. For that one. Well, Toni Collette too. She's like, cause she's like, it's fine that he can sleep with whoever he wants to. And then it's like, but it's like the signifier that their relationship is over.
Yeah. Right.
You know? So, but yeah, did you read that? Like how upset she was getting? Did you read that as like, she was like in love with Brian, and that's why Toni Collette was like, geez, what the fuck? Because she's like, don't ever tell him that I saw it. And then she's like, you're getting the impression that she's just like, she only did that because she was a super fan. She only got that job because she was a super fan, and she only went there because she was like hoping to hook up with him. And then she didn't get to, and he's with a man and chose a man over anyone else. And so she's like devastated.
That is how I read that scene. Yes, but that's why I rewound it, because I don't think I'd ever understood what that scene was meant to, what it was doing there.
Yeah, same.
Now, just because someone sees, two naked people asleep in bed together, it doesn't necessarily prove sex was involved. It does, however, make for a very strong case.
But you're a sweet, sensitive darling to be so broken up about it. Brian would be absolutely chuffed to know that you feel this. Ow, get dead! Oh, Brian. Swear to me you'll never say a word, ever. I swear. Jesus.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, for 1998, the amount of queerness and the amount of like normalization that queerness has, and the fact that like they're not presenting any of these people's relationships in the confines of how they have them with each other and themselves. It's not othered.
Right.
Like up until Arthur's dad like hits him. Like you don't really see anyone in danger. Like, you don't envision that as being something, you see him sneaking off and you're like, oh, this is his journey to like finding his people and but that's not what's happening for him. But you don't really get it because after that scene, he's kicked out. Like, he doesn't have anywhere to go, but like, that's not how you read that scene going. Like, at first, he's like jerking off to like,
Right.
And his father walks in on him just basically jerking off to like a picture of two men kissing.
Mm-hmm.
And he hits him and he has no place to go.
Does he hit him?
Yeah, because his face is bleeding.
Is it?
His
Okay.
nose is
I thought
like
he was
bloody or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying that like you don't think that there's any homophobia or anything. Obviously it's presented. But like the way I think, the way that they show it is like you're seeing, how they're doing it for a show. Like, obviously they are queer, but they're doing all this for show. They're doing all this for, they're making a spectacle of it because they have that sort of like, they know that it's going to get people interested. And it's fun and all this stuff. But then in reality, kids are having to hide from their parents.
Right.
They're having to, and even the scene where he's like, that's me. It cuts back to him just like sitting there and he's not actually saying that to them. That's just what it feels like.
Right.
And so, you're getting sort of like this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say. Just like that it's kind of impressive how for 1998, this film was very much a really unapologetically queer movie, doing a lot of queer things, showing several men hooking up, kissing, doing all this stuff. And none of it was presented as being different.
Right.
Or it's just...
I think that's one of the special things about it, or the magic of it as a movie.
Yeah.
Or,
right. And they did such a good...
Say magic means like it happened without intention.
Yeah.
Potentially. That's not what I mean.
Well,
I think it probably was part of his intention.
No, for sure. But like you would have to have intention, I think. I mean, whether it was intended or not, it happened. And like in some ways that's the magic of it, because you can have all the intention in the world and somehow that's not how it reads. You know? So like there is some magic in it, and that like it was, especially for the time, it was so masterfully done that there was just unapologetic queerness happening. And I do remember the first time because yes, there is, Ewan McGregor, fully naked, jumping around, flopping his dick every which way. Which
is apparently improvised.
Very funny. But some of what is so interesting is, like, I remember being like, oh, I could, like, oh, this is something I could never watch, in front of my parents. And it's, now I'm like watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, this doesn't have any like fearful weight for me anymore. Like I'm not like, oh wow, this is so like, oh, and I'm like, oh, this all seems so normal and so chill, and it's not the shocking thing. And I'm like, that's like a testament to something being able to age well. Because like the meaning of it stays and the shock value kind of goes away.
Yes.
But it doesn't lose any weight. So that means that...
What movie did we watch where it was... Sorry.
It's fine. That means that it's a very well done thing if you're able to like hold the meaning and the message, no matter if someone's surprised at what they're watching or not. Like, that's a very important thing. And I think I just think it's a really good movie. It's really well done. There's so much in it. It goes back and forth. Like, it goes back and forth through time. You're kind of like, it shows you like, I don't know. I just think it's really well done.
Yeah, the thing I watched, was it just that one? I guess. The person pointed out that there's lots of plot holes as far as Arthur's story goes or whatever, but clearly that's not the focus of the movie.
Yeah.
That's just a framing device.
Well, what are the plot holes?
They didn't name them.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't care. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, who cares? I never even thought about it. That's clearly, it's not meant to be a proper narrative.
Correct. Yeah.
You almost forget Arthur is
right.
The quote main character. You know what I mean?
Is he? Yeah.
Well, right. He's not, but he's the framing character.
He's the bookends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arthur framing device. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I'll say that as a caveat if you've never seen it. Don't go into this movie expecting...
Oh, yeah.
But I think if you listen to us long enough, you know that we often are fans of movies that are...
Yeah. A little weird.
Yeah.
Imperfect.
Yeah, for my part, it clearly was very effective in that I became a student of glam rock because of this movie.
Right, yeah.
Like, that was the other thing that really hit last night for me. I was like, oh, right, this movie is why I got...
Yeah.
Why I chose to learn everything that I know about David Bowie and Iggy Pop and Lou Reed and...
Yeah.
Eno.
Yeah.
Or, where they intersect.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, I don't... This is the thing that I'm saying because I think... I'm sure you'll relate to this. Mm-hmm. If I say I'm a fan of David Bowie, if I say I'm a song a Mongo song, if I say I'm a fan of Iggy Pop...
Christian Bale.
You get trained to expect questions about like, oh, do you like this album, that album, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. It's more like I could tell you some songs that are really important to me and affected me. I don't even know that I could tell you which albums necessarily.
Yeah.
I could tell you that, it's more about...
Yeah. Where they were in time, what they changed, how they impacted things.
Yes, very much that.
Influenced, yeah.
But... I don't know. That's just always been a weird way to relate to. I mean, I've definitely done it because, that's sort of how you're socialized to do it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do that for Sparks. I could tell you album and track and maybe even track number,
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But they're not the same.
Yeah.
I like them in a different way.
Yeah, for sure. In a more
platonically.
Gay way. Oh.
I respect them.
Yeah.
Everyone else I just lust for.
Would you recommend this movie?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like I've barely talked about the movie itself.
Yeah, I feel like I mean it's really just like I think it's just about glam rock and just like the impact that it has and sort of the way that things change and how like an image is a facade. And so you can have a lot of images and a lot of facades.
Yeah, I think important to note.
But also you can still hurt people.
Yeah.
Even though all you're doing is putting on a show.
Well said. Important to note is that it was Haynes apparently intended it to be a lot more directly based on Bowie.
Yeah.
Although fictionalized. But when Bowie learned that a lot of the sources he was drawing from were unauthorized biographies and Angie Bowie's memoir.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He withdrew his consent to like his music, or I think specifically he was like wanted to legally he wanted it to be understood that he didn't want to be thought that he had any way was involved or consented to
Right.
but and I remember when I first learned that I was like, oh, what a movie it could have been if it was.
No, I think it would have been. Yeah.
But now, I'm 100%. I'm like, no, it definitely a blessing in disguise because
for sure.
a much stronger movie
For sure.
that it had to get more
fictionalized.
fictionalized.
Yeah.
I listened to a relatively short interview or the interview isn't short. I listened to the first part of it, which is a very conventional interview with Miko Westmoreland, who plays Jack Ferry.
Yeah.
I want to say Brian Ferry because
Right.
Brian Ferry is a real person from Roxy Music.
Yep.
Why did I bring that up?
The biographies, David Bowie.
Yeah. Also, his younger brother, or his brother, I don't know if he's younger.
Jack
plays
Oh, okay.
Miko Westmoreland's brother, plays young Kurt Wild's brother when he winks at him before he goes into...
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Get shocked there.
Who was working on the film. He was like clapper loader or something.
Oh, my God. That's so funny.
And Miko Westmoreland, I don't know about his brother. His brother's a director now.
Oh, okay.
But Miko at least went to film school, had gone to film school. And,
Oh, wow.
and apparently, what's his name? Jarvis Cocker was, like, Haynes, I think, asked him to audition for Jack Ferry, but he turned it down because he didn't think he was ready to
Who's
do all.
Jarvis Cocker?
Pulp. Singer of Pulp.
Oh, I don't know.
I want to live like common people. Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Even Shatner covered it.
She told me that her dad was loaded. I said, in that case, I'll have a rum and Coca-Cola. She said, fine.
And again, this is another thing where I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I get this way about movies. This movie is the first one where I really got into it. We've watched other movies that involve fictional musicians, like Still Crazy and shit like that.
Yeah.
Where I'll be like, oh, this is actually like this real thing.
Yeah. This is this was your introduction.
You've seen other movies probably that attempt a thing that this movie does.
Yeah.
Of trying to capture a time, a zeitgeist.
Yeah, right.
And how it forms around a personality or...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's of course subjective, but this one really did it in a way that I've never seen it
before or since.
Successfully in a way that
Yeah.
it's so
I think some of it, honestly, I'm going to say, I think some of it is that they're all really singing. Like, that's really Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, right.
That's really Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. It's all really those people singing. And,
helps.
they even got a lot of, like the placebo,
right.
Like all these people are like actually playing characters in it because but I think that really helps. I think because it's like if you're getting people who are pretending to sing, it's not even just so much as like someone who it's more that like all of these people were actually providing the vocals. So even if they're probably lip syncing in the in the moment because that's just how it is,
Right.
But they're still singing and they know how to sing and they understand how to sing. So they're going to be able to perform in a way that is not the same as someone who's like, I don't know how to sing. I'm not a singer. I don't do this. I don't know how to play guitar. I don't know how to do any of those things. it's going to be a different performance. It's going to be very clear that they're performing something that is so foreign to them, and I think it does take something away. So I think when people are really singing, it does something to the performance. So I think if they had chosen people, it's not just that they were able to act so well, it's that they were also doing the thing that they were acting like they were doing.
Yeah, right. Yes, it would have fallen definitely flatter, especially for Slade, for
yes,
Reese
1,000%.
Myers. I think that's because
I thought I remember. I was like, I swear I remembered that he was really singing this, and then I convinced myself.
Some of them, Tom York.
Yeah, I was wondering if Tom York. I was wondering if that was just like for the soundtrack or like because he only did
the
like
soundtrack album,
yeah.
That might be.
However, I had convinced myself during the movie. I was like, this must not really be Jonathan Rhys Myers. And then I looked and I was like, oh, it is. Yeah. Okay. Because I was like, it sounds so much like him. I'm like, that's crazy that they were able to do that.
Sons and daughters.
And I was like convinced for whatever reason. Before I was like, they all sing. I was like in my head, I was like, I know they all sing their roles. I especially knew Ewan McGregor because he's, and then we started watching and I was like, oh, I guess Jonathan Rhys Myers doesn't. And then the whole movie, and then when the movie was like over, I looked and I was like, no, he did. What? Why did I convince myself while watching this that he didn't sing it? And I'm like, it sounds so much like his voice. It's crazy that they were able. What? Why? I knew that they all. What is wrong with me? Anyway, yeah, I would definitely recommend this too. And I think I think this is a sort of a great parallel to The Velocity of Gary.
Yes. And also that we watched the Brat Pack thing.
Yeah.
For me, that was very informed my viewing this time.
I did. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. But I think like comparing it to The Velocity of Gary, I was like, this is such a great example of like doing a queer movie. I mean, they're talking about different things. They're relating different things.
Yes.
But it's also able to give you sort of like
they come out the same year.
1998. That's what I'm saying. Like why it's such a great comparison is like this is done so much better. Yeah. I mean, I do also kind of fault this film with being British as to why it does queerness a little bit better. I don't know what it is.
Interesting.
Brits in the 90s were like, we're going to do queer shit. And they were like, we're going to, they're like, everybody's a little gay. And there was just something, I don't feel like it's quite the same now with British versus American, but probably like not. it definitely, there was there's something more believable about British queer cinema than there is about American queer cinema. Especially in the 90s. Like, look at fucking...
Good call.
I mean, I know it's not British, but it includes British people. Oh, God, why can't I think of it? With Kate Winslet and Melanie Linsky.
Oh.
I can't think of what it is, but yeah.
Precious Things.
Yeah.
Pretty Liars.
Pretty Little Liars.
Creatures.
Beautiful Creatures? Beautiful...
The Peter Jackson movie, right?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about? Did I get his name right?
Yes, you are correct. Yeah. Because that's one where it's like very queer, very crazy, but it's like a very 90s movie and very much, doing a lot of things, that I would not have
Heavenly
seen.
Creatures.
Heavenly Creatures. There we go.
Sorry.
You're fine.
The YouTube, I'm going to link to all this stuff, I promise. I know you're worried about it. I know you always check the description and follow all the links. I know you're that kind of nerd, too. The YouTube I watched referred to, apparently at the time, in the late 90s, a new queer cinema. I don't recall that
No, I
being
mean,
a term I encountered.
I don't know that I knew that term, but I can see
Also,
that.
I didn't know
sure.
Todd Haynes was gay for sure.
Oh, okay.
So, and he is.
Well, yeah.
That makes sense given how this movie, how the queerness is treated in
Correct.
this movie.
Yeah.
But also, it does not feel like a gay male film. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or like
Yeah.
that's not the focus. It's
Right.
just queer.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
Which is why I think it felt so welcoming to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could say so much, and I wanted to say so many things because apparently this is my root for a lot of shit.
When you find your root, and it's like a devastating thing, but also you're like, oh, like and it's a very exciting sort of like you realize a lot of things about yourself when you find a root. Whatever. I'm really hungry, so
well, you want to wrap it on Pride?
Fuck, yeah. I mean, obviously this is my favorite movie of the month, Velvet Goldmine, I think. Cruising, surprise. That was probably
so glad we did it.
Very much so. Very surprised and very glad we did Cruising. What else did we do? We did Priest. Right. That was a good one. Velocity of Gary, and then what was the?
Yep. I can never remember all five.
Different for Girls.
Oh yeah.
Sorry that the one film focusing on a trans woman, we dropped the ball on, and by we I mean me. I dropped all of the balls on that one.
Well, transphobic, trans misogyny.
What?
Z Macabre, famous trans misogynist. Yeah, Cruising was best
surprise
ratio of expectation to
for sure.
Actual,
yeah.
This one highest ratio of oh shit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Oh shit! I didn't realize. Yeah.
Different for Girls is really impressive.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
really,
that one was,
and so surprising in that regard. Like, just
I think we did some good ones. I think the Velocity of Gary is probably the pooper of the scooper.
Yeah, and as far as queer indie fucking 90s queer cinema goes.
Yeah, I think it was.
It's still worth a watch.
For sure.
Kind of fun to shit on it.
Yeah. And I do think like I say with everything, like they're all worth an examining. But Velocity of Gary is something really good to compare to
any of these other movies.
Well, specifically Velvet Goldmine. See, they came out in the same year. They had wild. Vincent D'Onofrio was. I mean, I don't know if Ewan McGregor had hit the Goldmine yet.
He apparently got the news while working on this movie that he was going to be in episode 1 or whatever.
Yeah. That's crazy. So, they don't have the same... Yeah, like, they're not... Whatever. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Oh, I had more anecdotes.
Oh.
Priest is a great example of what you were just talking about British queer cinema.
Right.
I feel like...
Talking about some shit that, you're just going for it and sort of, giving you a look of, how people will be more forgiving of someone, doing something awful to their child.
Oh, right.
Than they will,
Yeah.
It's...
Ask Ebert about that.
Yeah. It's very interesting. The Priest was really surprising. I was really surprised. It made me cry. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Different for Girls was. I think the biggest disappointment about Different for Girls was that the quality of the copy we got was so.
Oh yeah. Well,
it was so shit. No, I mean, I'm glad we were able to watch it. Like
that and Gary.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Or should I say
the pictures
more...
were like this big. I was like, oh my God. They were like 200 by 800 or something. I'm
Really?
like, oh God, so bad.
I thought it was at least 720p.
It might be, but when I because I'll scoot stuff. I just drag stuff into my Photoshop, and it was like this big. I'm like, oh my God. Same with Different for Girls. I was like, oh God, so small.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
No, Velocity of Gary was the one.
Oh, okay.
So little. I was like, oh my God. Same with Different for Girls. It was.
I'm sort of proud of us for doing shit like that.
Yeah.
These movies and like shit like Lil Witches.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to get.
If we had more money, more available funds for this kind of shit, I would be buying VHS
for sure
copies of whatever the fuck I get my hands on.
Absolutely.
DVDs too. But
no,
like,
yeah, but like one of my favorites that I did for last year's Hartley Fest was we watched what's it called? The A1 Amateur. We watched Amateur on we watched the VHS version of Amateur when we watched it.
But on DVD, right?
Well, yeah, but who cares? We watched the VHS version of that
because I think it's fun to add that. It's kind of funny that step was added.
Right, but all I'm saying is I did 2 versions of the slideshow, one with the VHS and one with the DVD, so that you could see the comparison of the two. And like, I mean, stunning. Just loved it. Absolutely loved it. But
yeah, shout out to other ones where and again, this is only because we don't always have the funds to do this. Yeah. I would do. This isn't about. I just love piracy above all else.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, yeah, it's nice, but yeah.
Especially these indies films, I would love. I mean, if I'm buying them used, the artist is not getting the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And there's so many of them. There's so few copies in existence.
I know.
But fucking Atanajawat was another one on Physical Media, and Darkly Noon.
Yep. Was one we had to get on Physical.
We haven't watched it yet, but that one with Martin Donovan that I got for you on VHS.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Isn't he in it?
Oh, yes. The Oprah Winfrey. Yes.
Oprah Club recommendation or what?
Oh, we got to watch that one. I was supposed to watch that for my birthday last year, and I didn't. And then we got to watch that.
I might.
You should do
become a patron.
Yeah.
Oh, also, you can get my latest release on VHS if you want.
It's really good.
At this time, I haven't yet worked out the technology such that you can have visuals along with the audio. So, but you don't care, and you don't own a VCR, so probably so.
It's all good, man.
What else? Stay gay, do crimes.
Yeah, happy Pride.
Stay gay.
Stay gay, do crimes. Fuck the government.
Fuck the man.
Yeah.
You got crazy legs, you got amazing head, you got rings on your fingers and your hair's hot red. You got a place on my tongue, name on the sun. I cut your coat to my breast, cause you're the only one who used to the pleasure. You make me act real young, you make it solid long. I have to lash your capsule, suck you dry, feel the teeth in your bone, till your head is my home. I can talk of your home, got your mind and soul. Hang on together. Velvet Goldmine, you struck me like the rain. Snake it, take it, panther princess, you must stay. Velvet Goldmine, naked on your chain. I'll be your king, volcano, ride for you again and again, my velvet Goldmine.
don't know. Where the pussy?